And I think the real problem with the social media age is you can look at it and go, oh, that guy got rich on YouTube. Oh, that person got rich on TikTok. First of all, very few of the people who are posting on YouTube or TikTok get rich. It's like a vanishingly small proportion. Most people are losing money buying equipment and putting stuff up and hoping, oh, one day I get enough views to get affiliate status or whatever. Right?
Yeah, not this show, though.
You do very well.
What if my opening question? I took all this time to think of my opening question, and it's like, "How you doing, man?"
That's the hardest question to answer?
That's actually the worst one because what are
Yeah.
you supposed to say? No one knows.
Yeah.
No.
Okay. All right.
I'm good. I'm good.
Yeah.
Pained. Absolutely
Yeah.
pained. Agonized.
Thinking about everything that's bad that's happening in the last 3 days that you cannot say because it would be rude to actually tell the person
Yeah.
all the fucking shit you're dealing with.
Kind of also doing a cost-benefit analysis of telling the truth and figuring out, are they doing good? Do they want to engage in not good behavior?
Yeah.
No, I wanted to ask you, you were a huge part of the writers' strike.
I was.
A massive element of the writers'
We
strike.
were all on strike. There were 12,000 writers on strike.
We
I was
were
one
all
of them.
don't politician
all there.
me.
Hey,
we were
it
all
was a
on
group
strike,
effort.
but you were there every fucking day.
Yeah.
You
I was
were
on
a
the
huge part of
negotiating
it.
committee, yeah.
You were on the negotiating committee. It was kind of brutal. What did we learn from this? What did we get out of this? What was the point? What did we do? Did we do good?
Yeah, no, we did great. We did something amazing. I mean, we proved to the companies and to Hollywood and to the world that like we have power, that workers have power, and that we can force them to give us what we want. You know, like there was all this stuff that they swore they'd never give us. They said it was a non-starter. You know, not even replying to what you asked for.
Yeah.
Right? 5 months later, they gave on pretty much all of it to some
Yeah.
degree.
So for a normal person in the world who's like, why the hell did the writers go on strike?
Yeah.
And I'm sure we won't talk about this super long because I'm sure you're tired of it.
No, it's been a little bit. I'm happy to dive back into it.
What if for normal people who because I think there's a lot of people out there who never knew what was going on,
Yeah.
who aren't writers, who were just like, oh, the writers aren't writing, okay.
Yeah.
Why did we strike and what did we get?
Well, so the first thing is that over the last 20 years, the companies, Warner Brothers, Disney, Apple, Netflix, some of them are new, some of them have been around for a long time, but what they all have in common is that over the last 20 years, they made it harder to earn a living as a writer in this town. You know, they wanted us to work less hours but produce more, have less of a participation in how well, in the money when the thing did well, et cetera, et cetera. And then there were future issues where, AI, so-called AI text generation had just come around the corner, and we were concerned that the companies were going to use that in the future to try to really undermine our work and say, okay, well, we want you to punch up this script the AI wrote. Of course, the AI outputs garbage,
Yeah.
and it's the writer really doing the work, but, you don't get your full rate because you're not really a writer. You're just punching up what the AI wrote.
Yeah.
We're worried about that kind of thing. And so we were able to put in place measures that protect writers that they never wanted to give us. For instance, we required that in every writer's room, for a certain number of episodes, there be a certain number of writers hired because we were finding that less and less writers were being asked to do more and more work. We set that minimum for the first time ever. They swore they would never, we would never countenance such a thing. Yeah. Oh, no, we must have flexibility in the number of writers we hire. Oh, and we could never go out on strike. 5 months later, they gave it to us.
Yeah.
And we got a residual based on the success of the shows, so which is a start. The numbers will be improved in future years, but now when a show is a big hit, the writers will be paid more. And so will the actors, by the way, and the directors were able to get that same deal because we fought and won it for them, and a bunch of other really important stuff as well. I don't want to get into the nitty gritty. Totally. 2-step deals for screenwriters. You don't know why that's a big deal. The public doesn't, but like for screenwriters, that's like the difference between them being able to pay their mortgage and not. And I think the reason the public did care, I would have asked all the time, why should the public care about it? The reason the public did care is because everyone's experienced this in their own jobs. That, hold on a second, 20 years ago, I was able to make a living and work reasonable hours, and now everyone's getting laid off, but they're asking me to do more, and, I'm being paid less. My cost of living is higher. I'm not being paid more. And everyone knew that, okay, that's probably happened to these guys too, and these are the people who are fighting back and kicking ass and winning.
Yeah.
And so I think the reason people were riveted by it is people had that feeling of, I want to do this too,
Yeah. I've been processing a lot lately my disdain for the robots. I'm really worried about the automation of everything. You go, even just these small things that seemingly don't matter. You go to McDonald's and now there's a robot taking your order at the drive-thru.
Yeah.
And you go to the store and you check yourself out at the robot. And I drove into Beverly Hills recently, and there was a sign that said, "Welcome to Beverly Hills, police drones in use." We even get policed by the robots now, And I'm like, these little interactions.
Yeah.
I miss little interactions with the police. please. No.
Can you believe how little they want people to go to Beverly Hills? They're like, stay the fuck out of here. There's going to be a robot like 2 feet above your head. Hey, there's a drone watching you, buddy.
And they are, and they're up there.
Yeah.
You can't smoke on the streets in Beverly Hills.
Horrible city.
A horrible city. I don't want to be there.
And honestly, if I were the mayor, my number one thing, if I was going to run for office in LA, my number one platform would be absorb Beverly Hills.
Yeah.
Fuck that city.
Yeah.
Should not be its own city. If you look at a map of Los Angeles, there's a little carve out where the rich people live, where they have their own city and their own mayor. They don't fucking need their own mayor. They don't need their own school system. They're hoarding tax dollars so that poor people don't get them. That's the only reason Beverly Hills exists. Absorb it.
Now, by the way, if I were to run for public office in LA,
Ha!
it's giving OJ's If I Did It a little bit, because you're on the
Okay, hold on.
I would say you're on the
I
path.
thought it was going to be a compliment, but you're
No, it's a compliment. You're going to run for office someday.
I mean, look,
Exactly.
people ask me this now. I think you honestly have more power in, if you look more broadly at what you can do. Like, again, in the Writers Guild and in SAG-AFTRA, we were able to force these CEOs to do shit, right? Yeah. The mayor of LA couldn't force them to do it. The governor of LA couldn't. The president couldn't force them to do it. We could, And so I think one of the truths of being an elected leader is they don't actually have a lot of power because they are so enthralled to the forces that are pulling back and forth. You know what I mean?
They're beholden, yeah.
Yeah, they're beholden because you have to be. I have friends who've run for office, and I've seen how they are sort of forced to, I have to go to a listening session with the people who are mad at me. Like that kind of thing, where so I have a lot of money and I have a lot of votes, so you better do what I say, and you have no choice because otherwise you'll be fucked, Well,
and if there's 5 big things you're really passionate about that you really want to get done,
you're
not going to get all 5, but we can get 2 if you give them these 3. So you have to capitulate on all these things that matter to you.
And that's politics and that's reality, but maybe if you want to get shit done, instead of being subject to all those forces, you could be one of the forces.
Yeah.
You could be the person organizing and say, you know what? I'm going to organize 10,000 people in, Los Angeles or my city or whatever, and we're going to demand X, Y, Z, and we're going to force the leaders to give it to us, rather than say, I'm going to run and then be at the whims of, a bunch of assholes you don't like.
Yeah, my favorite activists, my friend Tara and I have talked about this quite a bit. She founded the tenants union in Kansas City.
Oh,
you guys would love each other.
That's amazing.
She's a wonderful human being, an absolute genius, a very dear friend of mine. But my favorite activists, her being an example, you being an example, are people who realize that public office is not only maybe not the path for a really passionate activist, but also it feels to me like there is a certain point oftentimes where ego overtakes activism and says, I should be the person in the big office with the big chair.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's necessarily always as effective. If you ran, I'd probably be there voting. But I think you've created this really interesting path for yourself as this you got a psychology degree? Philosophy from Bard.
From Bard College, yeah.
Here I am.
Wow, you've sort of done your research.
Messed up my P words, but I really was halfway there. What's up, y'all? If you're enjoying So True podcast, there is so much more So True over on our Patreon. It's dirt cheap, you guys. The Patreon is dirt cheap. Get over there and get some more content. We've got bonus content on the Patreon with every single guest, including the guest that you're listening to right now. Bonus questions with them that you won't find anywhere else. Please like, subscribe, share everywhere, and follow us on every social media. And frankly, kind of be sycophantic about the pod. We're trying to build a cult-like presence here where eventually people will get harmed. Thank you. Goodbye. So tell me about how you've carved this really interesting place for yourself in doing Adam Ruins Everything.
Yeah.
And now being on the negotiating committee for the WGA and those things. How did you get here? Who were you as a kid?
Oh, wow. Going all the way back. I mean, I was, so you've seen Adam Ruins Everything. I often describe that character as like a younger version of myself, you know? Talked way too much. Read too much. When a topic would come up, I'd be like, I know a little something about that, and people would be like, Why are you bringing that up? That's not the conversation. Like, we don't need to know your fun fact right now. But I would just know something and be, I have to spit it out. And a lot of it is because my mind was easily blown. I was, oh my God, I can't believe this is true, right? And when I was doing comedy, I mean, you might relate to this. Like, after a while, you're doing comedy like 5-6 years. You're like, okay, I can write a joke. How do I make people give a shit about who I am? About where they remember my name, where they want to come back and see me later. And so I started like dropping stuff that I knew, stories. The first one I did was about the invention of the diamond engagement ring, how it was made up by the diamond companies in the 30s to sell us more diamonds. That's not an age-old tradition at all. And I started telling that on stage, and people would react differently. They'd be like, wait, really? What? You know, like in addition to laughing, you know, they'd come up to me after the show and be like, is that really true? You know, et cetera. And so I started, you know, I did a web video about that, and, you know, turned that into Adam Ruins Everything, and just like tried to give people that feeling over and over again. Then we did enough topics about like how fucked up the world is and how there are like simple solutions we could put in place. Like the big one for me was homelessness, right? That like the big idea is, guess what? Give people homes and it solves the problem.
Yeah.
Like it's not drugs. It's not like mental illness. Those things happen because people are homeless.
You don't think segmenting them off to certain parts of downtown LA is working?
I don't think shoving everybody into a pile.
It's not working. Okay.
I don't think so. I mean, Skid Row has been there 100 years.
Yeah.
We literally, it says on Google Maps, Skid Row, because homeless people have been pushed there for 100 years.
Yeah.
All it does is concentrate poverty and misery.
Yeah.
But instead, if you take the people who are most at risk of dying on the street, you put them in permanent supportive housing, meaning you just put them in a place and you give them actual support from, you know, counselors, you know, substance treatment folks, et cetera. It works. You get 90% retention rate, and it is cheaper than folks going to the emergency room, you know, multiple times a week, stuff like that. And so I learned this, like, oh, holy shit, my mind was blown. I shared it on the show, and then I went, okay, why aren't we doing this? You know, and I got like involved with a group locally. I started doing like street engagement. I started seeing like how homelessness actually happens in Los Angeles. And then a very good friend of mine named Nithya Raman, who founded that organization, went on to run for city council and like on a platform of like, let's do these things.
Was it Feed the Streets organization? What was her organization?
It's called SELAH is the name of the
org.
Yeah. SELAH. And we do really basic volunteer street engagement. We go out with food and water. We have a drop-in center where people can come once a week and get a hot meal and clothes. And then the main thing is just try to get to know people on the street and you know, connect them with caseworkers and stuff like that. But in terms of just, you know, I was like, I want to make this shit happen. And since then, I've sort of moved around from one topic to another because like it's one thing to learn about these things, but it's really cool when you can start to put them into practice and actually see shit happen.
So you said that the character you put on Adam Ruins Everything, and I think it's important for people to know that it's a character. You're playing a larger version of this like trait that's within you.
Yeah.
But you're heightening it. You said it was a character of a younger version of yourself. Yeah. What shifted between that being an actual kind of way you were behaving or a person you felt like? What changed in there?
I mean, part of it was just growing up. A lot of it, I think, was me starting to do stand-up comedy. Mm-hmm. Like, I felt very socially awkward before I did stand-up comedy and like, not really sure how to integrate myself into a conversation. And then after, like, you know, 10 years of doing stand-up, I was like, oh, wait, I feel like the most socially comfortable person in a situation. Like, I can put people at ease at a party if they're nervous or whatever. Yeah. Because stand-up is so intensely social.
Well, it's caretaking as well.
Yeah, caretaking?
I've used stand-up as caretaking. I think you're taking care of the audience. Oh, you're inviting them in. You're giving them the opportunity to share ideas with you. I think when I don't like a stand-up, it's because they don't take care of their audience. They're mean to their audience. They're inconsiderate. To me, my shows, when I really figured out what I was doing on stage, it was the shift to view stand-up as taking care of the audience.
I love that.
You're hosting.
Absolutely. And you're responsible for sort of the minds of everybody there. And you really much have to work with them. You know, I think all the time about how people all come in. This is my favorite thing about stand-up. It's like it's like a magic trick. People all come in and their minds are all in different places. They're thinking about different things. One of them got a bad email. One had a fight at work. One just, I don't know, gave birth or something, whatever. They're all in different places. They're flooding around like birds, and they all need to like come and land and then all point in the same direction and stop being individual minds and start literally being an audience. Yeah. And your job as a comic is like, if you can make them all laugh, it's because you made them have one thought and then another thought in the order that you wanted with the intensity that you wanted.
In unison, together, in
chorus.
Yeah,
in unison. And like that's such a fucking cool magic trick. And that's why as a comic, you're always like paying attention to like what's happening in the room. Oh, someone dropped a glass, right? Because you need to keep everyone focused.
And everyone's thinking about the glass.
Yeah.
It's why part of this hosting mentality that I have about stand-up is exactly what you're talking about and taking it and realizing, like, yeah, when we come together in a room with other strangers to experience a thing, the number of sacrifices that go into that decision, like I end a lot of my shows, live shows these days, talking about this and thanking the audience really in depth for coming, because it is never lost on me, like, it's fucking crazy that you know what, if you do a 300 seat room, 300 people got babysitters, took off work, ordered cars, bought 2 drinks, bought the ticket, money's tight, took off their shift from work.
You're selling out every show, because for me, a 300 seat room, it's like 175 people. I'm just saying.
No. But okay, so 175 people, and no, you're not. But 175 people, whatever.
Thursday, go for it.
Depending on the night in the city, right?
Yeah.
But whoever came, so many sacrifices went into us being in that room together.
Yes.
And I think when I don't like a live performer, when I feel disconnect with a live performer, it's because I'm getting the feeling that you are not taking this seriously.
Oh, yeah.
You don't take, this is such a huge responsibility, and you don't give a fuck.
Well, so many comics are self-centered because they got into it for the same reason I did, which is that I was in a sketch comedy group, and we hosted a monthly show at UCB Theater in like 2007, and we would do sort of multi-person. What is that?
The golden age.
The golden age. It was wonderful down there. It was an incredible theater. It was like 4 or 5 rows deep, and it was around you. So when there were laughs, you'd be standing in the center, and they would like pop at you.
Is this Chelsea?
The Chelsea
under the
Theater.
Gristedes?
Yeah.
Thank you.
That building, by the way, demolished now.
What?
No longer. I was just found that out 2 weeks ago. I was like shocked. It hadn't been the UCB for a while. They'd given up the space.
Right. Yeah.
But literally, that stage no longer exists. It's like rubble. Which is like kind of shocking to me, because it's just so, for me, that was the first comedy room I ever fell in love with. But I've experienced those laughs as so physical. It was like I was getting something I had always wanted. I was getting like social approval, and love and reward. And I did stand up primarily because I just wanted to feel that way more often. When the group broke up, I was like, I don't want to stop having that feeling. I want to keep doing that. And I think a lot of comics get into stand up for that reason. But then if you don't check that, it's the comic stand up that go like, why aren't you guys laughing? Why aren't you? Wow, what's with you guys? It's like, well, it's not about you, sir.
Yeah.
The event is for them.
Yeah.
Like, the comic wants something out of it, but these people did not all come here and get the babysitters to give you the laughs that you want.
Yeah.
You came here to give them the laughs.
They're not here to fulfill you. You're here to fulfill them. It's a Jeff. I just saw Jeff tweeted the other night at Largo, and he said, he was riffing with the audience on something, and he said, "How are you guys doing?" And he said, they said, "Oh, everyone cheered." And he said, "I've learned it's good to check in with the audience about that." And someone yelled, "How are you?" And he goes, "It's immaterial. It doesn't matter." He goes, "I'm doing an active. I'm doing a serve. I'm completing a service right now." And I do feel that way about being on stage. And I think it's part of why I'm not interested in railing against crowd work videos. They're happening, whether we like it or not. And a lot of my friends who do crowd work videos do them very well. Yeah. But there's a shift in mentality occurring because of them with audiences, I feel, where audiences are starting to feel now responsible for making the show go well. And I'm like, I'm disinterested in that. Your job is to be an audience member and sit back and have fun. Yeah. I don't want you coming up with quirky stories to tell me while I'm up there. Yeah. No, we don't want that to happen. But I think people like crowd work videos for a good reason, which is that they're real and they happened in the room. Yeah. Like the best, every comic's experience, the thing, you're doing your whole set you've been working on for 2 years, and then one thing happens unexpectedly and it gets the biggest laugh of the night. Yeah. Because it was real. And it was, to the people in the room, it surprised them. And that's like the magic of live comedy. And like, you can prepare all your material, but you have to have some of that. Yeah. Or you're not really doing stand-up, or you're not doing it at its highest level. And that's what crowd work does give you. It's like a quick shot to like, oh shit, oh fuck, I can't believe, Yeah. Oh shit, that guy's an accountant. Oh no, he's an accountant. Well, if you overreact as a comic and you pump everything up too much and you have a pattern of how you get there every single night, then you lose the spontaneity. Yeah. But you also need to, those moments where you keep your knees loose and like something weird happens, is like, those are the magical moments. So I understand why people want to watch them on social media. And I think I think there's also some kind of understanding of like, this is a way to support your favorite comedians. We know that it's working. Giving them views and follows is like, I think people want to support their people. But I was thinking while you were talking, when you're such I view you as such a practical person. Like you have such a good mind for taking huge complex issues and breaking them down to be understandable. Thank you. For people like me and for everyone else. But you studied philosophy. So what is, and that's such a big nebulous kind of. That's like, true. What is going on there? That's a really good question. I mean,
I guess I always had a practical approach to philosophy, which is that there were like things that I want to know the answer to. You know, I was like, how do I decide? Just when you're 16 or 18, the questions that you want to know the answer to is like, how do I know I'm not in the Matrix?
Yeah,
which is like, that's a compelling question, and like you can read a lot of philosophy on it. And I read about it until I had a satisfactory answer. I think
you only studied utilitarianism. That was your approach to philosophy.
Utilitarianism is really interesting because it gives you answers to like complex moral questions. It always produces a result, which is like something that people want sometimes. But then, you could ask, well, are the results, I don't know, they push you in a weird direction, like these particular results. I don't know. I actually now, I get bored of the kind of philosophy that doesn't like go down to the real world and have an effect on things, because like this is the stuff that we're swimming in. Like, this is what I want to know about, I guess. But also, I was just interested in philosophy when I was in college years. And since then I get interested in lots of different things. And so I kind of sort of moved to being curious about other shit. Yeah.
Yeah. What, did you have a professor in college who really drove it home for you that you were like very in love with?
I mean, there was a professor I went to a college called Bard College. There's a professor named Gary Hagberg, who, I hope he never sees this.
Gary, tune out.
I would call myself a straight man. I had a crush on this man for sure, as did everybody. He was just the most.
I'm giddy. That made me almost blush.
He seriously, he had this like way about him. He was a corduroy jacket wearer, a little bit balding, glasses, good look, but just so smooth.
Yeah.
Just like such a smooth guy. He taught philosophy of art and aesthetics. He played the jazz guitar. And he would just be like, oh, yeah, what do you think about Kant? Oh, that's a very good point. Like, just like I think a lot of it was the performance of teaching he was very, very good at. So he gave you that little thrill and that feeling of discovery. And then, when you were talking to him in his office, he would like make you feel special for just long enough. Eventually, I realized it was a little bit hollow. I was like, he doesn't really have time for me. He doesn't really think I'm special. So I'm going to go work with somebody else. But it was like he made such a strong impression.
I think people of all genders and sexualities can imagine themselves appreciating the soft touch of a gentle man.
This is like,
and that's what you had going with him.
I don't know how the Kinsey scale works. But this is
I'll tell you how the Kinsey scale works. It's pretty.
Is it like 1 to 10? Like, what are the numbers?
It's 1 to 6.
1 to 6.
And 6 is ultra gay.
Okay.
And 1 is, I would say, alt-right. One is just hetero.
So when I think of myself, I'm like, I'm not all the way on the Kinsey scale. I'm like a couple notches, towards the middle, and he's fallen on the other side of that notch. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think anybody that we interface with and like as human beings, even some of the like straightest guys I know, even the willingness to be like friends with a gay guy means you're not a 1. You know what I mean? I'm like, you're a 1.5, you're a 2. Doesn't mean you're going to fuck a guy. Yeah. It just means like you're progressive.
Maybe you have a slightly open mind.
Yeah. And I think Alfred Kinsey would agree with me. God, that's so funny. Yeah. I had a philosophy professor in college who I really adored. I did not study philosophy. I studied socio-political communication, which was, I guess, a mix of ethereal kind of academic, useless approaches to world problems mixed in with like a very practical approach. But I had a philosophy professor called Jack something. I forget his name. But he was wonderful. I loved him. He was just a sweet old man. I had him for one class, one semester. And I just I think about him constantly. He just really made it so easy. He wasn't hung up on like tests and beating shit into our head. It was very much a conversation about who we are as human beings and what the hell is going on.
Yeah, I mean, that's what philosophy is just, I've got a big question and like, how do I answer it? And there's certain parts of philosophy that go down the rabbit hole where I'm like, I'm not really interested in like the methods that these people, it gets a little too much people trying to do math with ideas in a way that I don't think really holds up. I spoke with an incredible philosopher on my podcast named Quill Kukla, and I was talking with them about how philosophy, like, it never kind of solves anything. Science progresses, and we know this, and now we know it. We move on to the next thing. Philosophy, everything's always up for debate. Nothing is ever settled. Like, even Plato, everyone loves Plato, but people are like, he was full of shit. We've got like you cannot. It's always on quicksand. It's never solid. And they were like, that's actually what philosophy is. It's not a sort of rational I mean, it's rational, but it's not like a discrete process that ends. It's an art. It's something that is like in the doing rather than in what has been done. I'm not doing justice at all.
Yeah.
To
Oh, you
exactly
are.
what they
I'm
said,
locked
but
in. I'm locked in. I love this. And so you had them on. Was this a recent episode or an old one?
A couple years ago, my podcast Factually, where I interview experts and folks like that. It's in our archive somewhere. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm gonna go listen to it.
You should. I mean, they're like just one of these people. You're like, oh my god, I would love to buy you a drink and talk to you for hours. Which is why I started doing the podcast. I was like meeting experts, doing Adam Ruins Everything, and I was like, I just want to talk to you for for hours at a stretch now. And that's what I'm able to do.
Is that one of your favorite conversations you've had with like on the podcast?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Top one.
Yeah.
Like in the top realm.
In the top realm, I'm trying to think who. I mean, we do one a week, so there's so many. But had like an incredible conversation about homelessness. Why am I trying to promote
Oh, as you should be.
Yeah.
Because I was thinking when you were saying that, it was making me think of Chance. Can you Google this guy's name? We had him on Keeping Records, my podcast with Shelby that was at HeadGum. That there was this guy who he worked on the original Golden Records. You know about the Golden Records,
the ones that went to space.
Yes.
Yeah.
He worked on them, and he worked with Carl Sagan in with John Lomberg, I think was his name. Chance, tell me if I'm wrong. But he worked on the original records with Carl Sagan and decided what they were going to send to space. And now he just lives in Hawaii and is like chilling out. But we had such a beautiful conversation with him. And it's one of these things that like, were I not doing a comedy podcast, I don't know that I would have ever spoken with this dude.
Yeah.
But we had a beautiful conversation about specifically, I remember telling him, thinking about space and the sheer like immensity of it really spins me out. And I go, oh, I'm nothing. I'm a grain of sand. My life doesn't matter. I'm like, I'm an ant,
Yeah.
I really, when I think about you, those videos that go on social media all the time that are like, this is the earth.
Yeah.
This is the next biggest planet. And
Powers
it goes
of
on
10,
so much until you realize that we're literally less than a speck of dust.
Yeah.
And I don't like, that's making me sick to even think about. But I was telling him that those make me feel that way. And he goes, oh, I feel the opposite. Like, I feel that because we're so small, everything we do matters.
Oh,
and I was like,
I agree.
Oh, and I think I do agree now. Like, I think I've changed my thinking a little bit. But just one of those conversations that you go, thank God for this job.
Yeah.
Thank God for like a life where I get to talk to cool, interesting people. That's fucking awesome.
It's incredible. I love getting the perspective that you're talking about. And the thing that I trip out on is like how unique in the universe humanity is, right? That, everything is just molecules bouncing off of each other. That's all that exists. And entropy, right? But here on Earth, under these very specific set of conditions, a set of molecules started bumping around that are anti-entropic, right? That are able to consume other shit from their environment and like reproduce themselves. That by itself is like so rare and cool and weird. And then that happened to such a sophisticated degree that some of the living things are us, right? And then this is what I trip out on constantly. Like evolution, so slow.
Yeah.
Right? Very slow. Like human ancestors existed for millions of years, just like tossing rocks and like eating fruit and, et cetera. And then we reached kind of a tipping point where the evolution stopped happening genetically and started happening in our heads via language. And then suddenly, like all of the rest of history happened we're talking fucking 10,000 years as opposed to millions, right? Like, I could sit here and go my great, 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 and it wouldn't even take me that long to get to the great grandfather, right? That was around for like that part of the explosion. And things are moving so fast now, and it's like kind of inexplicable. And all of that happened just on top of molecules,
Yeah.
And we haven't seen anywhere else in the universe where it's happened ever. So that makes us also like the most special things that we know about, honestly, more special than I love animals and I love the environment, but we are more special.
They're nothing compared to us.
Like what we're doing is like fucking crazy that we have like that out of all this came like Bach and Beyonce, is such a special thing. And you don't need God for that argument for why humanity is special. It just like comes out of like knowing how this shit came about. It's like the most unlikely thing ever.
Are you a God guy?
I'm not a God guy.
You're not a God guy.
Although my parents brought me up we would go to a congregational church, which is very low key Protestant denomination, and we would go sing in the choir and stuff like that. But I was like, you guys are scientists. You don't give a shit about this. And so they made me stop going after a while. And then they didn't go for a long time. And then now they're retired. They started going to a local church again, like mostly for the social part of it because they're retired. And they were telling me about it. I'm like, I think I would go. At least if I was 70, I would go. You know, just like, I know all the songs.
And they're great.
Yeah.
I've, at several points in my life, including now, have gone to Unitarian Universalist churches. You ever been to one?
Oh, yeah.
Lovely. I love the people. I go to one in Kansas City. I volunteered at the one here in LA during COVID for a while when all they were doing was operating as a food bank. I went to Springfield, Missouri, where I went to college. It was the first time I went. My religion professor, Dr. Kathy Poley, shout out girl, had us go as an assignment. I love Unitarian Universalist churches because they're just, it's like everybody's welcome. It's a bunch of like, at least in the Midwest and the South, it's a bunch of like old Christian people who left their conservative churches because they had a trans grandkid or something. And they weren't welcome there anymore. Or it's like, it's like young Muslim people, young like Jewish people who are atheists. And it's just like, we're going to get together and have coffee and chat. Yeah. It's great.
There's an amazing philosopher named Alain de Botton. Alain de Botton. Alain
has to be said like that.
Alain de Botton.
Yes.
Alain de Botton. Alain de Botton. I don't know. Can you sort of get it from
I'm
that?
with it, yeah.
He's a French guy.
No. Tell the truth.
Yeah. He eats frog legs. Can you believe it? He makes the argument that church is like a valuable thing for reasons apart from religion because it's a place where you go and mingle with people who are unlike you, but you are all there for a common purpose, and the purpose is something not material. The purpose is something spiritual or abstract, right? Or it's an ideal and a virtue. And you go there to spend that time with each other. And that's just like really important socially, you know? So he created something called the Church of Life, which I've never been to. I heard about this on a podcast like 10 years ago, which is like a secular church. I don't know if that's any good, but I do think about that a lot when I, interact with things like that, where it's like, getting together with people all pointed towards a common purpose that are different from us is good. Sounds kind of like a comedy show, doesn't it?
Dude, just when you were talking, I was thinking about how funny I think it is that so many comics are atheists, myself included, agnostic atheists. I don't really know where I fall. I talk about this on the podcast a lot. I believe in a bigger power of some kind. I don't have a name for it, but we go to church all the time. Concerts and comedy shows are churches in a way. It's like gathering with strangers to feel good and share in the fact that we enjoy this thing. Yeah. And I think that is the whole point of life. However you gather in rooms with strangers is the point of life. Yeah. But being in a room, being at a fucking movie theater, being at a comedy show, a concert, a church, whatever, this is the whole point of being alive. We're supposed to gather with each other. Yeah. We're supposed to get together in person.
I believe that very strongly.
I think that's the point. It's the time I feel most alive. Yeah. It's the time I like other people the most. I like other people, not for nothing, the least when I'm in my phone imagining them based on what I'm reading on the internet. That's when I don't like humanity the most. Yeah. And when I like humanity the most is when we're together in a room and someone bumps into me and I go, oh, my bad. And they go, oh, no, my bad. And then we go back to watching the show that we're watching. You know what I mean? That's beautiful.
This is a real controversial opinion of mine. But the rise of remote work, great. Very good that there's a lot of shit that should be done better over Zoom. You shouldn't have to drive to, But the idea that, permanently working from home, I feel like is not good for you. I understand parents and people with like real time problems, disabled folks and all that, right? The option is really important. Mm-hmm. But like just the daily rhythm as a person, or the regular, it doesn't have to be daily, the regular rhythm of leaving your house, no longer being your house self, putting on different clothes, going out and being among other people and being work self, and then going to the store and being store self, and interacting with people on those different levels is like essential to society, but also to like us personally. Like I think we really atrophy if it's like not going to the gym, and I just figured that out from paying attention to myself, like working from home for like 2 years. And then, Los Angeles like never went back to work. People just like never.
Well, people never worked here to begin with.
Yeah, that's
no one has jobs here.
People stayed inside here way more than in other places, and I was just like, wow, they're just making me really unhappy. So I don't want to be one of those people who's like, everyone hates the bosses who say, everyone has to come back to work, right? I think that's horrible to like force people to do it. But I also sympathize with the idea that like we need to gather, you know?
Yeah, I think even in amongst ourselves, like I don't want my boss telling me that I have to go into an office.
No.
But I think take it on yourself to meet up with some other friends and co-work from your respective jobs or something. Be around people. I've talked about it a lot lately on stage and on here and in my life. I'm extremely worried about the broad and kind of general dissolution of community.
Yes.
And we have so many ways to connect now, and people are feeling so lonely. And I think there's a bunch of solutions, right? There's like, making yourself go work with other friends at a coffee shop 2 days a week if you have a full-time work from home job. There's becoming a regular somewhere, which I think I'm becoming more and more convinced that being a regular somewhere is like one of the keys to mental health.
Yeah.
You've got to be a regular somewhere to the extent that you can. Yes, there are people who can't leave their home and things like that. But I'm worried about the lack of community. I think people are craving it, and there's such an outsized craving for it compared to how much of it is being fulfilled.
It's such an endemic in American society. There's a famous book called Bowling Alone, which I've never read because it's a very like academic sociology book, but I know the argument because it comes up constantly. And it's that, American society has lost all of these membership organizations. And so what this guy describes is, the bowling rate has stayed steady. Right. Yeah. But the number of people who bowl as part of a league where, I go once a week and we have a, yearly competition or whatever, like an amateur bowling league, that has plummeted. There's a lot less people in leagues, even though the same number of people are bowling. They're just bowling by themselves. Right. And if you look at just the kind of organizations that people used to be a member of, look at like Elks Lodges and Masonic temples.
Yeah.
Every single one of those, there's hundreds of them around LA. They're all sitting there empty. They're rented out as film locations. I've been in them because I filmed in them dozens of times. Yeah. There's always like one old guy drinking the $2 beer that you get if you were a member, or VFW halls, stuff like that. That used to be like the fabric of life, was you'd be in multiple things like that. Masonic temple, 4-H, whatever the fuck that is, like your church, your union, your all these things, right? And now those all seem antiquated. People, maybe they're like a member of a CrossFit gym, right? But that's not the same thing. So I would say, in addition to going out with other people, finding like something that you can join. And when I joined the Neighborhood Homelessness Coalition, SELA, one of the most important things for me was during the pandemic, and I was going every week, and I had a route, and I had my partners who I'd go out with, and I knew who was doing what in the organization. I was on committees and stuff like that. I eventually stopped doing it so much when I started doing the union work instead. But just having that, like, all right, it's not just social, it's also we're all here to do something, and then social stuff comes. Oh, after we do our shift, let's all go out for beers or whatever.
Yeah.
Looking for things like that is so important for your mental health.
Yeah, I think it's a sense of these are my people and this is our place.
Yeah. And
then it's also the sense that can expand, and that you will meet new people, and that you can make new friends and things like that. I'm trying to move. I've been in the worried about it stage for a little bit, and I'm trying to move into the like, what am I going to do about it kind of part, where I'm like, what are my ideas? I mean, I try to make my shows be community. That's one thing, but I'm like, I want like more. I want more agency. And
I'll tell you something that I think we really need, and I've never had. I've thought about someone needs to do this, but it can't be me. We don't have any community institutions for comedians. None exist for stand-up comics, right? If you think about it, like, okay, say other forms of even like writers and actors have the unions. Stand-up comedy has no union, right?
Yeah.
It has no club. I mean, there was the Friars Club like 100 years ago. It still exists, but it's a sort of old, moribund institution, right?
Yeah.
There's, other than me going to a show, or maybe some club has a holiday party, if I wanted to like do something with like 50 comedians right now, or get the word out to 50 comedians, I don't know how I would do it, right? And when you look at stuff like mental health crises, we both know comics who've like gone through mental health crises, or et cetera. Having community organs that allow us to like get together and like have bonds between each other would be great, and they don't exist. It's like such a weird freelance institution that nobody feels like they have a strong connection with each other.
I think it could be a rehab center. If you want to, I think that we could do 2 birds, 1 stone situation. We get 50 comedians together and try to work on some things. No, I totally agree. I've been thinking a lot about musicians. I've seen some musicians union activity popping up. I mean, good God, those people are getting screwed.
Oh, terribly.
Good God, musicians are getting fucked over.
It's awful.
When I see what's going on over there, even I think it's very rare that I think comedy is cooler than music for me personally. But I've played some music venues in the past couple of years, and I go, y'all are taking a cut of my merch? Comedy clubs don't do that. You know what I mean? I'm just like, little stuff like that. I'm like, musicians are getting fucked every single day.
Yeah.
A stand-up union would be great, but because it's such a I have noticed this even during the strikes. There was behavior going on from stand-ups.
Yeah.
I'm in both unions. I'm also a stand-up.
Yeah.
And there was behavior from stand-ups who aren't neither of the unions that I was like, oh, you're a scab and you only care about yourself to an extent that I actually find baffling.
Yeah.
Like I think stand-up is such an individual pursuit. Not all of us, but it's such an individual pursuit that I think we could benefit from trying to make some more collective thinking going on.
Yeah, I mean, people do that because we don't have the social norms and the bonds between us, right? Like they don't feel connected in the way that writers do. But the truth is that like writing is also very much an individual pursuit.
You're right, yeah.
And semi-freelance in its way. And comedy is also intensely social, right? That was the thing I always liked about it was, I'd go to, when I was starting out in New York, there was a show at a place called Cabin that was like the big hangout show. And I would go and say hi to every single person. Good to see you. Good to see you. Okay, I got to go. Bye, 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 bye. Right? It's like those social bonds are really important to comedians, even though we don't like influence each other's careers that much, right?
Yeah.
Like it's not like a comic can book you on a show except for a bar show that they host, right?
Yeah.
And yet we do have loose social bonds between us, just nothing. There's nothing to show up at, right? Other than maybe some comic has a poker game. And I think that's the missed opportunity that we could set a little bit more,
Totally. I agree.
And by the way, all the unions, the entertainment unions, like the Writers Guild, got started in the 30s because it was just like dinner groups that writers had. Oh yeah, we all get together. Everyone who writes for Paramount or whatever, we all get together so that we're not just competing with each other, right? And writing scripts against each other. We're gonna like create a social group and we elected a president, a treasurer. Oh, maybe we should be a union. Yeah, sure, let's file to be a union, right? And then eventually it grew and grew from there. But you don't need to start with union. You can start with, hey, I created a space for us to get together and just come together and be on a regular basis.
Well, I think we're making moves towards it all the time, and I'm very interested in it. And even this space that we're in right now, we record the podcast, is Mo sitting over there. Hey, Mo. Trying to make it a collective and trying to make it a place where, like, trying to move away from these, like, companies in as many ways as you can. We're always going to have to deal with big companies, but trying to move at least some of our creation away from the companies and more into like a collective energy of like, I make shit and you make shit, and can't we get together and do it without the outside force of big money in at least some iterations of our careers,
Yeah.
And I love the big companies I work with. Thank you guys so much for your service.
Can you put in a good word for me?
The companies?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'll text them.
I'm not getting any calls.
I'll
I could really, the podcast's going fine, but I need some health insurance.
The
please.
big companies,
Yeah, the
they're
big
not loving
ones.
you.
The big ones.
They're not calling all the time. I'm gonna talk to the big companies. For you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'd be happy to do
The
it.
Adam, the guy who is screaming on the picket line, needs the health insurance minimum.
You know
this
him.
year.
You've seen him. The sign at security that says "Don't let this guy in." He's a great writer. Adam, what do you want? What does Adam Conover want? What's the big goal? What are you working towards? What's all this about?
Oh my God.
Come on. What do you want? You do a million things. You have a million interests.
That's true.
Where are you headed?
Oh, that's such a big question, Caleb. What
I
the
know.
fuck,
I'm here
man?
for the big questions.
I think in my personal life, I'm just sort of looking for the same sort of freedom and happiness that I think I'll probably be looking for forever, right? Professionally, I just want to get better at saying the things that I want to say on, the biggest stage that I can, right? In the purest way that I can. Certain amount of ambition, but also it's just like sharing the ideas and things,
Yeah.
Right now, what I'd love to have is like infrastructure. It was such a pleasure working on Adam Ruins Everything to have like a team, right? To have like 100 people all working to make the thing that you are that you're working on together, right?
Yeah.
And I think the real problem with the social media age is you can look at it and go, oh, that guy got rich on YouTube. Oh, that person got rich on TikTok. First of all, very few of the people who are posting on YouTube or TikTok get rich. It's like a vanishingly small proportion. Most people are losing money buying equipment and putting stuff up and hoping, oh, one day I get enough views to get affiliate status or whatever, right?
Yeah, not this show though.
You do very well. But okay, so like
but you're right.
But
It's
there's a
a
certain number
small-
of people
yeah.
who can make a living, right? So I between Patreon and YouTube rev share and the ads that placements and touring, I can make a living. Right? I can make a middle class living in LA. That's wonderful. Other people are able to do that who weren't able to do that before. However, even if I can make as much money as I used to make on TV, which I might be approaching, I can't pay to have the whole staff that was making the thing before, right?
Yeah.
The 100 people who were helping me make the show. They're helping me research topics, making the episodes funnier, letting us go to different locations, making the set beautiful, etc. Right? The new media world will pay the bills for one person and maybe these two guys.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, Mo and Chance are on there. Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
But like, where's the late night show? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
if people are being driven to these platforms that pay the talent a much smaller portion of what the profits are. So, my hope professionally is like one day I want that car to drive, so that I can like really get places. Because I sort of see that, the more infrastructure you have, the more you can do creatively. you
Yeah.
know? Running a show is like, I'm sure there's a long answer to your question.
I love a long answer to my question.
Running a show that has your name in the title, that's saying what you want to say, is like stepping into like a mech suit from an anime.
Yeah.
You're a little guy, you get into this great big suit, and suddenly you can do great big things.
Yeah.
It also makes you a bigger target of people who want to say like, fuck that guy in his show. There's a bunch of other ways the metaphor works, but primarily it's you're a regular sized person, lets you get really big. And do bigger things, move more creative weight. And that's that for me is like, I'm looking for that particular situation, just not because I want to make more money or be more famous. I just want to I have more shit that I want to say than I'm able to like write with my own two fingers. There's a limited amount of time in the day, and I want a fucking team to help me do it.
Yeah, it's a really interesting like relationship between. I was just talking to someone about this earlier today. That like, even if you don't desire fame, which I generally don't, you have to drum up a certain level of interest to get the money to make the projects.
Yeah.
What I want to do is make the movies in my head. What I want to do is talk to the interesting people that I love and share
Right.
ideas. There's a certain amount of interest that has to be drummed up in you and who you are and your brand or whatever people think of you. The people watching have to like Caleb enough for Caleb to get something made,
Yeah.
And that is this really interesting relationship, and you start to see immediately why people get so fucking crazy and lose their minds, because you have to constantly be thinking about yourself in order to make the stuff that was in your head to begin with.
Yeah.
And it's this really vicious cycle. And I like asking people on this show what they want, because it never, I talk to interesting, nice people, and it never is, I'd really like to be fawned over at the grocery store a little bit more often.
Well, they want that, but they're too smart to say it. Like,
Well, I
everyone
don't-
knows not to say that.
Well, yeah, you don't say it, but I really don't think it's the central purpose. I think it's like, people, yes, you enjoy the little, like, I love your stuff. That's
Yeah.
so nice. But I think generally smart, talented people who have cool shit to make and say generally just want more resources to make their things.
Yeah.
And that's where we are.
Yeah, and it's distressingly hard to get those resources, and unfortunately, we're in a period where people are less likely to take that chance. The reason that we made Adam Ruins Everything was because I was working at College Humor. We had made a bunch of Adam Ruins Everything sketches. We had made 4. Every single one of them got 1 million hits in the first day, which was sort of our metric of success back then. Still kind of is the metric for success for a YouTube video. And then we went to a bunch of networks, and when we pitched it to True TV, they were like, "Oh, we're trying to compete with Comedy Central, and we also have a mandate to sort of do educational comedy. Like, that's our little idea for what's going to work on our channel, is stuff that makes you laugh and learn." They had a couple other shows like that. And so they're like, okay, this did well on YouTube. We like the material. My pitch was good. We've got an experienced comedy website here. We've got everything that we need. But there's a lot of risk involved for them, right? Because I was not like a famous person. I was a guy who worked at a website and had made 4 popular videos. That doesn't exist now. Like literally, True TV as a network no longer exists. It's still on your cable box, but it's just run by the people who run HBO Max.
Yeah.
Every single one of those channels that used to compete with each other and like, okay, I've got this many millions of dollars to take a risk with. That's just one motherfucker now who you pitch. And they're only looking to spend money on the people who are already massively proven successes, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, look at, everyone is flipping out right now because Conan O'Brien went on Hot Ones and had that amazing segment. He's got a new show coming out, right? Mm-hmm. And he's doing a comedy travel show. Great. He's the best in the world at it. They gave him 4 episodes. Yeah. 4 episodes?
Conan O'Brien.
Conan O'Brien. And how long has it been? How long did it take him to do that since the last thing that he did, right? Yeah. Like since his show was out there, 4 or 5 years of him having one of the most popular podcasts in the world, being one of the most beloved comedians, and they give him 4 episodes. So if you were to have an idea for a comedy travel show, as you know, I would love to see you do that, or any other comedian, right?
Yeah.
Where would you go in your comedy travel show?
Where would I go on my comedy travel show?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Well, what I would love to do right now is I would love to do I've thought about a comedy travel show because I love to travel.
Yeah.
I would love to. There's something about my face and energy that tells strangers they should speak to me.
Yeah.
And I don't know what it is, but I'm grateful for it. I love it. I meet the weirdest fucking people. And when I was in, I've always met the weirdest people, but when I was in Europe last summer, I met a bunch of weirdos. And I'm like, I would love to just like do a show where I go out in different cities around the world and see what I can get into. No reservations, no plans.
Great.
Who I meet and where they're going. Like I was in Mexico City for Christmas and New Year's this past year. And some of my friends were supposed to come for the whole trip and something came up. They couldn't make it. So I was there for a couple days alone. No big deal. And I was eating at this taco place and this straight couple came up to me and they were like, well, one of them was a fan, but they were like, what are you doing tonight? And I was like, nothing. And they were like, do you want to go to the speakeasy with us? We have a reservation. They're impossible to get. And yeah, I was like, yes. And then we went to a gay bar. We danced all night. I spent the whole night with this straight couple that I did not know at all.
Were they straight at the end of the night?
No. What's interesting is she was more straight, but he was gay. And so I fucked him and no. but yeah, just this shit like that. I'm like, what random? I met an uncle and niece pairing in Amsterdam that I went out with one night. Yeah. I just want that.
See, incredible, right?
But I'm more famous than Conan, so I could probably get 20 or 30 episodes.
I mean, you telling me that, I'm like, there's a show there, right?
Yeah.
It's like you doing, it sounds like David Tell's Insomniac, but for 2024, like with you, right?
Yeah.
And if we went and pitched that out, right? Well, how are you supposed to get that bought when Conan O'Brien could only get 4 episodes on his own fucking streaming service, right?
Well, you just don't. No one does that anymore.
Yeah. And it's a bummer, right? So what could you do instead? You could do it on YouTube. Okay, then you need to raise how much money per episode, and how are you going to fund it? You have to line up the sponsors, and you got to do it with the bare bones crew. You don't get to do it with Conan's crew. You get to do it with 2 people.
Yeah.
It's a really weird time in media. Now, my positive take is that there are, I think, platforms that are starting to fill in the middle that disappeared, because the streamers are only doing stuff with superstars that's really expensive, et cetera. The sort of like missing middle of television, I think, is being filled back in. So there's a wonderful service called Dropout. You know Dropout?
Yep, no Dropout.
Yeah, which was what College Humor became. I just did my stand-up special with them. We just taped it a couple weeks ago. It's going to come out later this year.
Let's go.
And it was the perfect place to do it, because everyone right now, it's either you get to be one of the 1 or 2 people who get a Netflix or HBO deal, or you're going straight to YouTube. Your special's going to look like shit. You had to shoot it in a basement for $5,000, right? Yeah. But this is a streaming service that is... They have about 1 million subscribers, right? And they're doing live shows. They're great. Let's do a stand-up special. All 1 million of their subscribers actually watch the channel and are going to tune in and goes, oh yeah, I'll watch Adam Conover's special. That's more than you can say for Netflix, right?
Yeah.
If you have a special dump on Netflix, and then they're going to give it back to me after a year. I get to take it where I want. But it's like they actually have a business model that's sort of like surviving underneath, after the forest fire, right? A new green shoot popping up. And there are those opportunities, like if you look for them, I think.
Yeah. Well, we're going to talk off mic about that, because I've got an hour I'm trying to do something with. Adam, what's so true to you? What's something that's so true to you?
Okay. I've shared a lot of things already that were true to me, like my actual take about getting together in person with people, which I think is like, so I guess that's my real take, is that there is, and then I have a funny one, but my real take is that I really started to believe that there's something ineffably important about being in the same room with people. And I don't put it in mystical or spiritual terms because I'm a materialist rationalist philosophically, but like I think humans are so attuned to each other's presence biologically, you know, like this is what we evolved to do, is have intimate social relations with each other and like pick up on, you know, small micro movements and people's smells and, you know, the environment in a room. And I think that is like a huge amount of information that you get in person that you just cannot get over Zoom, you know, like
Oh, yeah.
meeting with someone over Zoom is like, it's like listening to, you know, a symphony through like really shitty speakers, you know, over the phone. Like you can you're getting it, you can hear it, but you're not getting the full experience. Like my therapist, I'm so mad about this.
Drag them.
My therapist, Kristen, if you're watching, Kristen, is after the pandemic, she stopped doing in-person therapy entirely. She only does it over Zoom.
No.
And I understand why, and like I love her. She's a wonderful therapist. I keep going. But like I miss having to go and sit in her room and be confronted with myself. She's looking at me going like, you know, like so what's wrong?
Yeah.
And I have to actually I can't escape.
And I had to think about it on the way over.
Yeah.
And I had to park and walk in and know that it was about to. It's just different.
I have to be there,
Yeah.
right? And you know, the same way that people react differently in a movie theater because they're in the presence of other people than watching at home. Or, you know, people watch stand-up specials. They laugh once every 20 minutes when they watch a stand-up special at home.
Yeah.
When they watch it in the audience, they laugh constantly because they're around other people. And so I really do think it's like, it's irreplaceable. Thank God we have Zoom for folks who need it and for things that it's not important enough for, but okay, you want my dumb take?
I want your dumb take always.
What do you think about fast food drive-thrus?
Well,
I want your take before mine.
What do I think about fast food drive-thrus?
What do you think about the phenomenon of the fast food drive-thru?
Well, they've been massive for me in my life, but
Yeah.
what do you?
I think they're terrible.
You don't like drive-thrus?
I don't like drive-thrus, and I'm not talking about the food itself.
Yeah.
The fast food drive-thru is such a horrible experience. It is like, first of all, at least in Southern California,
Yeah.
the fast food drive-thru takes longer
Yeah.
than going into the store.
It's backed into the street.
It takes longer than parking, going in, ordering your thing, getting it, and then eating it in the sunshine.
Yeah.
You know, if you're at an In-N-Out here in LA, they always have the outdoor tables, eating in the sunshine, getting in your car and driving away. I'm like, who's like, I want to get a nice burger. You know what I want to do? Sit stationary. It's traffic.
Yeah.
What if a restaurant was traffic? That's what a drive-through is. What if I could sit in traffic to get food and then eat it in your car? Or I guess maybe take it home. Now it's cold. Like,
Yeah.
what are we doing?
Yeah.
Like, if you're going to spend $5 on like a burger and fries, why aren't you fucking going to enjoy it? It's faster to park and go inside. Why does this exist?
And by the way, just so the listeners know, you're a guy who deeply does not drive.
I don't drive at all.
So that's playing in.
I
That's
don't
playing
drive.
in. Yeah,
No, I took the bus here today.
Yeah.
But me and my girlfriend were on road trips, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
we stopped to get some fast food, and we're like, why is anybody in this line?
Yeah.
It's worse. What's one thing that's better about it?
Well, there isn't, and I'll tell you, you're right, because what I do, my little secret at Starbucks is when you go to a Starbucks, if you're doing that, I'm not right now, but if you go to a coffee shop that even has pre-order, the people waiting in line, I go right around them. On my way there, maybe 5 minutes before, I do the mobile order.
Yeah.
I put my tip in, whatever. I get there, I park, I walk up to the window, grab it. Everybody who was in line will be there 30 minutes longer than me.
Yeah.
I'm gone, I've drank the coffee already. You're right, especially with the order ahead. But if you go and order in person even, it's often quicker. I'm with you.
It's true.
I support your take.
Order in advance doesn't count in what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But I will say, Starbucks is like, when I see people waiting in a Starbucks line, I'm like, is this the Great Depression? Like, what the fuck is happening? If you go to an airport and you see I've never seen a sadder line than the coffee line at an airport at a Starbucks.
Will not do it.
I pay for the Admirals Club membership, a couple $100 a year, just so I can get free tea.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to go wait in that fucking line. Like, what are we doing to ourselves that we're like, I need my fucking, like, it's people are desperate in that line.
The craziest thing I just learned in that statement was that you're an American Airlines guy.
Yeah, I'm an American Airlines guy.
Wow.
Yeah, no, true blue.
That might have been the most telling thing you've ever said to me.
What? Okay, wait.
You're an
have to talk about
American
this.
Airlines guy.
What's surprising you about that?
Well, Delta is superior.
Oh, they're not.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry, they're not. Actually,
my so true.
Actually, I'm sorry, you're being conned.
That's my so true.
Delta has like tricked people into thinking it's good.
Delta is better than American.
It's not. If you look at their like service records of the past couple years, the number of like complaints they've had from disabled passengers and like their on-time performance, American was worse like 6 or 7 years ago, but Delta has been in the crapper, and they just massively devalued their loyalty program. And they already had the worst loyalty program of the big three.
Now, here's the unfortunate thing. I'm talking about for me, right? And you have said you pretty much instantly you undercut my ability to talk about Delta being good because you're like they're bad to disabled people. So now you put me in a tough position. Now,
No. We'll forget about what's your loyalty. But
the thing is, my loyalty is very specific. Now the loyalty, the way they slashed, you're talking about the slashing of their loyalty program and how upset that made people. Yeah. I loved it. I wish they would have done it harsher. Because I am out of it. I fly so much that it didn't affect me. It only affected people that I don't want in the lounge with me. Because what they did was they made it harder for people who don't travel very often to get into the lounge. And it's good because those people get in there and you guys act like animals. They act like animals in the lounge.
Yeah.
I'm glad that Delta kicked him out. I would have loved to see him taken out in handcuffs.
Yeah.
I don't want... If you fly twice a year, you shouldn't be in the lounge with me. And I'm going to get reamed for this. We'll probably cut it. But I'm loyal to Delta because they're the only airline besides Southwest that has a direct flight between LA and Kansas City every day.
Oh.
And I go to Kansas. I live in Kansas City. I go there quite often. And I have to be in LA all the time because I also live here. And so that flight made me loyal to them.
I got on the American Airlines train because I used to have to fly when I was doing Adam Ruins Everything. The company would make me fly back and forth from LA to New York, and American had the best
transcontinental.
Transcontinental. But here's my loyalty. And look, it's so funny because I'm a critic of capitalism and like social hierarchies and shit, and yet these companies have their hooks. So I did a whole fucking segment of Adam Ruins Everything about how frequent flyer miles are bullshit.
Yeah.
And I am so locked in to the whole American Airlines thing. Like if I was on tour in February. I went to a bunch of different cities. I had to take one Southwest flight, and I was like, "Where the fuck am I?
Yeah.
Like what country is this?
Yeah.
Like it was horrifying to me. And like if you're on Southwest all the time, I'm sure you love it. But I was like, I just feel so cocooned in my American Airlines. But this is the reason that I am actually loyal, which is I have twice left important electronics in the seat back pocket. Once it was a laptop, another time it was my Nintendo Switch with like 7 years of save game data on it.
Yeah.
Both times they got it back to me within a week.
That is nuts.
And I was like, I don't think that's happening on fucking United.
Yeah.
They were literally like, put in a little thing, and they're like, what color is the case? And like, when we turn it on, what will we see? I'm like, you'll see Adam. My player avatar is Mario because I'm basic.
Yeah.
And then 2 days later, they're like, yeah, we found it. $12 to ship it to you. I was like, that's incredible.
That's a good note for them.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
Adam, we got one more segment for you here.
Oh my God, let's do it.
It's a true false segment, and I'm really interested to see how you do. Our producer Chance, thank you Chance, wrote these questions for you. What it is I'm going to read you 15 I'm going to read you 15 statements, and they have an objective truth or falsity. You're going to tell me if you think they're true or false as quick as you can, and if you get 10 or more correct, we're going to give you $50, Adam.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Okay, wait. You're going to read me questions. If they're I zoned out because I have ADD.
For sure.
So they're going to be questions.
15 statements.
Yeah.
As quick as you can after each one. Tell me if you think they're true or false.
You got
That's
it.
all you need to do. You ready?
Well, can I have a sip of water?
I wish you would.
It was John Lomberg, by the way.
It was John Lomberg. I knew that.
Wow.
Okay. First statement. The longest movie ever is 121 hours long.
True.
False. 857 hours. Whoa. The national flag with the most colors used is Belize.
False.
True. The American Revolution came out after came out. They dropped the American Revolution came after the French Revolution.
True.
False.
Oh, God, that's such a basic. That's such basic history. God damn.
The founder of Pringles had his ashes buried in a Pringles can.
True.
True. Wesley Snipes is 6'2".
True.
False, 5'9". Bard College was established in 1799.
False.
False, 1860.
I knew that one.
Lettuce is a member of the sunflower family.
False.
True. The longest one-syllable
The
word is...
sunflower family. Oh, hold on a second. Lettuce is a brassica, is it not?
The
Are
longest-
brassicas sunflowers? I'm sorry.
The longest one-syllable word is screeched.
False.
True.
Screeched
Screeched.
is one syllable.
Screeched.
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 Chida.
Chida.
Scree.
Oh, no, not trying to
Chida.
make it multiple. Swings are banned from playgrounds in Sweden.
True.
False. The most leaves...
RNG.
The most leaves ever found on a clover is 14.
True.
False, 56.
These are so annoying
Yeah.
because they're
These
like
suck. These
because
suck.
you've still chosen high numbers. So I'm like, yeah, okay, it sounds like it would be high, and then it's just a different high number.
Stone Cold Steve Austin has been married 4 times.
False. It's 5.
Nope, true. No U.S. president has been an only child.
Oh, you guys really don't want to give me $50. False.
That is true. Whoa, that one's kind of crazy. China has 6 time zones.
True.
False, 1. Chuck E. Cheese's middle name is Edwin.
False. It's entertainment.
It's entertainment, and there's one more. There are 3 films in the Trimmers franchise.
True.
False, 7. How many did you get?
I
Chance?
knew the ones that were actual trivia questions. Can I just say? Apart from the American versus the French Revolution, which was an extremely basic history fact that I was wrong about.
Yeah, Chance made them. Chance did tell me before the episode, I'm going to make these ones really hard and see what Adam does. So he came for you. Adam, where can people find you? Tell them.
So I do a podcast called Factually. You can get it wherever you find your podcast. I have a YouTube channel. I also do comedy video monologues.
Yep.
And you can find my stand-up tour dates at adamconover.net. I'm all over the place.
I love seeing Adam live. You're an absolutely brilliant stand-up.
Thank you.
And thank you so much for doing the show.
Thanks
I
so
just
much.
Think the world of you.
I'm so thrilled to be here. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for doing it. Well, bye, guys. We're done.